Hello and welcome to new video series. So in this video series we'll be talking on how we can deploy our website on AWS cloud. And so talking about this video series, it will be a step-by-step tutorial where I'll be showing you how we can deploy and configure our website on AWS cloud. So looking after the architecture of the AWS cloud, we could see this is the typical architecture that we'll be following. So the end user will be accessing our website. So generally domain name is preferred for accessing the website for this video series. So I'll be using public IP address itself, so I won't be using domain name here. So we'll be accessing the website using the public IP address, and the other services that we are using is, you could see we are using AWS EC2. So we'll be creating a virtual machine or an instance using AWS EC2 service, and the other service includes S3. So S3 is a simple storage service where we'll be storing our static files, images file, video files or audio files into the AWS S3 bucket. And talking about RDS, so RDS is a managed AWS service. So it is a relational database service that is provided by AWS. So we'll be using MySQL for deploying this application. And talking about IAM, it is an identity and access management. So in order to access the AWS resources securely, we'll be using AWS IAM service, and it will help us in creating a role for a specific user so that specific permissions or specific access can be provided to that specific user. So without further ado, let's move to the demo series. So that's a managed database service that is provided by AWS, and we'll also be using IAM. So IAM is for security. So IAM stands for identity and access management, and using which we'll be providing access accordingly. And we'll also be using S3. So S3 is object bucket storage. So basically any kind of files can be uploaded there. So the kind of file that maybe images, video or audio files can be uploaded there. So without further ado, let's start our deployment series. So as I mentioned, so first we'll be requiring an EC2 instance. So basically I'll be creating a EC2 instance here. So as you can see, this is the AWS console that is provided by AWS. So within this instance section here, we can see there is a launch instance option. So I'll be launching the instance from here. So here we can see there is a launch an instance, and so I'll be providing my instance name. So this will be my prod server. And talking about the application or OS images, so there are multiple OS images that are currently provided by AWS, but for this particular demo series I'll be selecting Ubuntu image. Okay, and here we can see we have selected Ubuntu server 22.04 latest version. And talking about the architecture, we have selected 64-bit x86 architecture, and the instance type, as we can see, here is a section with instance type on it. So basically AWS provide multiple instance types, and based on which we can select according to our feasibility. So here we can see there is a free tier eligible instance type, so that is T2 micro, and the specification includes 1 vCPU and 1 GB memory for this one. So for this demo series I'll be selecting T2 medium instance type. So this will be 2 vCPU, 4 GB RAM. So currently I have selected this. And talking about key pair, so it is required for the SSH login. So I have already created a key pair, and I'll be selecting this key pair to log in into my EC2 instance. And here we can see there is a firewall or security group. So currently port number 22, that is for SSH, is allowed, and I'll also be allowing HTTP traffic to this, and other thing I'll be leaving it as it is. And here we can see number of instances. So if we require 2 instances of same specification, we can select the number of instances to 2. So currently I'll be selecting 1, and I'll be launching the instance. So the instance is getting launched. So for connecting this instance, I'll be using Git bash. So Git bash will be helping us to do SSH login to the server that we just created on the AWS console. Okay, so let me clear this and let me go to D drive, as I have my key located here. So here we can see there is a demo server key available. So we'll be requiring this to do the SSH login to the server. So here we can see the instance state is on pending state, and currently is on running state. So let me select this and let me select its public IP address. So under the networking section we could see there is a public IPv4 address attached to it. So let me copy it and I'm moving to the gateways and ssh-i demo server key will be the key file and our user will be Ubuntu and the IP address will be this one. So let me paste this. So if it's asking if we want to continue connecting, so I'm typing yes for this and it's adding this IP to the known host file. So let me clear the screen, sorry. Okay, so we are successfully logged into the Ubuntu server. So the first and foremost thing that we need to do is update the system. Okay, let me minimize this. I believe the font size is clear to you. Let me increase a bit. Let me clear this. So the update is completed. And talking about the project, as you can see, I have my GitHub repo opened. So this is the current project that we will be deploying. So first and foremost, let me copy this repo URL and let me clone this over my machine. So let me do in this directory here itself. So git clone and let me paste the repo URL. So this is the repo URL. Sorry, I think isn't it copied? So look like the repo URL isn't copied. So let me copy this once again. Okay, so it's copied. Let me paste this. And here we can see the repo URL is pasted. So let me do ls. So here we can see the AWS Intuit project. Let me go inside this project and let us first see what the project architecture look like. So let me do one thing. So if I do this, we could see the folder architecture. So student app.py and there is the PyCast file as well, and within this there is a config.py. So we must keep in mind that all the configurations related to this project and setting up the database, setting up the S3 bucket and everything will be stored here. All the username, password, database name, S3 bucket name and things like that. So this needs to be taken into serious consideration, and other things are the templates. So these are the HTML template using which we will be rendering the contents based on it. So let me show you what the config file look like. Config.py. Okay, so here we can see there is a custom host. So this is the host for the database, this is the username for the database, and this is the password for accessing the database, and this is the database name. So we must add this to our config.py file. So for this project I'll be installing MySQL on this instance itself first, and we'll be also creating the RDS, and we'll also be connecting to the RDS as well. So without further ado, and here you can see the custom bucket and custom region. So this is the S3 bucket name that we want to store our images, and this is the region. And as I mentioned earlier, so region must be taken into serious consideration. So here we can see there is a Ohio region selected. So this is the US East 2, and if we are creating a bucket for any other region, we need to select the specific region name. So Ohio is US East 2. So here we can see the US East 2 is reflecting to Ohio region. So I think this is clear as well, and let me also show you the another important file for this. So that will be student app.py. Okay, so here we can see these are the modules that are being installed. So the first one is Flask, then we have PyMySQL, so for establishing MySQL connection, and we have Boto3. So Boto3 is for S3 integration. So here we can see the bucket and the region. So this is being passed from the config.py file itself. So there, as we have seen, so this is the okay. So custom bucket and custom region. So these two values are getting passed here from the config.py file, and similarly the host, port, user, password and database is also being passed here. So here we can see host, user, password, database. So we provide the values here and this will be reflected here. And talking about port, since we are connecting with MySQL database, so it uses port 3306. So by default the port is set to 3306. We additionally do not need to specify port on the config.py file. And there we can see there is a table named student. So we must have this in our mind that we need to create a table with the table name student and other thing as it is. So our table will be consisting student ID. So these are the fields that the table will be holding. And here we can see the method is post method, and for the requested URL is /add_stu. So I believe we are at the point that the application architecture is clear to us. And so these are the fields. So student ID, first name, last name, so the primary skill, location, and the student image file. So this image file will be stored directly to the S3 bucket. So for that we need to create a bucket on the S3 region, and we need to integrate it with the application through the config.py file. And this is the SQL query that will be that will run after adding these entries from the browser. So let's get started with this. And this is the integration or the code for uploading the image in the S3. So I'll be sharing the GitHub repo. You can check this as well. So we are currently focused on deploying this application rather than developing the application. So let's get started with the development process. So let me clear this and let me go one step backward and let me clear this once again. So we are back to where we started after cloning the repo. So let me add, so as I mentioned, we'll be requiring MySQL. So let me install the MySQL. So I'm installing the MySQL client. Okay, okay, so I'm installing the MySQL client. And talking about MySQL client, it is used to interact with the MySQL server. So if we are trying to provision the database server on the RDS itself, we do not need to install the MySQL server on this instance. But as I mentioned, so firstly we'll be creating the database on the local instance itself. So for that we'll be requiring MySQL server, so that the database server will be hosted on this instance as well. So let me run the same command with MySQL client interchange to MySQL server. Okay, so it's asking, do you want to continue, yes or no? So I want to continue, so I'll be selecting Y. And as we can see, we have installed the MySQL client and server, but we have not set the username or the password or the database for this. So we'll be logging into the MySQL server and we'll be adding all the other details that will be required, or all the other query will be executed on the database itself, so that it will act as the system is required to behave. So let's wait for the installation. So looks like the installation is completed. So if I do MySQL, we could see that the MySQL DB server is working fine, and we could interact or we could run the MySQL queries in this local instance itself. So first and foremost, I need to set the password for root. So currently here we can see I am directly logging to the MySQL DB, but I don't want that. So I want this to be asking us for the password so that we can securely log in into the DB. So for that I need to set the password for the user. So talking about the user, there will be a root user by default. So I'll be setting the password for root user itself. Else we can create a user and we can accordingly activate. So I think there's a typo, ROOT root, and so currently we are trying to change the password. So identified by with MySQL native password by, and this will be password. So my current password is set to password. Okay, looks like there's a typo. Okay, so let me execute this, and looks like the query is executed successfully. So if I exit out of this MySQL DB and if I try to log in once again using the same command that I used earlier, so let me try to log in. So here we can see there is a error. So access is denied because the root user login requires password, so without password we can't get logged into the DB. So let me specify the username. So username is root, and let me use the -p flag. So this will be asking us for the password on the next prompt. So I have inserted the password, and we could see MySQL has been successfully installed, and the password for root user has also been set for securely login to the MySQL server. And also, as I mentioned, so okay, let me exit out of this once again, and let me show you CD. So let me go to the AWS end-to-end, and let me go to here, and here we can see there is a config.py file. So here we can see, so as I mentioned, the DB that I'm currently hosting is on the local host itself, so the custom host will not require any changes for this, and the username will be set to root, and the password will be set to root that we currently set. And talking about DB, I'll be giving the DB with the name prod DB student DB prod. Okay, and the bucket name will be as it is. So let me exit out of this config file, and let's do one thing. Let's go to the MySQL once again, and let's create a database. So currently we have clear installation of the MySQL. So if I show you the databases that are currently available, we could see there are only 4 databases. So that are information schema, MySQL, performance schema, and sys. So these are the databases that are currently set up here. And so I forgot what I set the database name to. So let me create a database here, and we'll be changing on the config.py file. So let me create a database. So create database. So the database name will be student db. So let me give underscore here prod. So I think I have used hyphen on the config file, but I'm using underscore here, so I'll be changing that. So here we can see the student db is created, student db prod is created. So in the database list we can see student db prod here. So we'll be using this db itself, student. Okay, so the database is changed to student db prod. And as I mentioned, so let me show you from the code base itself. So as I mentioned, we'll be requiring table inside the database so that the values will be stored within the table. So for that we'll be requiring these fields. So the last one will be on the S3 bucket itself. So we do not need to specify this over the database, but all other 5 fields needs to be inserted or needs to be created within a table. So the table name here is set to student. So we need to match the table name. So for this I'll be creating a table with the table name student. So for that, create table student. So if you are wondering what I am using, so these are the MySQL queries that are used to interact with the MySQL database. So create table student. So let me show you. So we'll be requiring these 5 entries to be, or the 5 fields within the table. So first one I'll be student ID. Okay, so the student ID, and this will be a varchar and 20, and again fname field. So the data type will be varchar, and it will be of 20 characters. And the next one we have is lname, and this will be also be a varchar of 20. Then we have primary skill, skill varchar, so this will also be 20. So we can specify any number, but I am currently setting 20 for each and every one. And the last one we have is, so the last one is location. So let me add location as well. Okay, so we are almost done. Okay, so the query is executed. So currently the table do not have any value. So if I try to fetch all the records within the table, there will be nothing listed. So else, let me show you. Select asterisk from student. So here we can see this is an empty set. So there are no any values inserted within this table as of now. So let me exit out of it. And so finally we are done with the database, and we have cloned our application from the GitHub repo. So let me go to the root and let me clear this. So let's get started with the application requirement. So if you see, there is a readme file. So for SQL we have already installed the MySQL client and the server as well. So for the Python and related framework we need to execute this. So for this one, let me do one thing. So manually running all of these 4 commands separately is tedious. So let me create a file. So nano install.sh. Okay, let me paste this and chmod hyphen install.sh. Okay, so let me execute this. So here we can see the packages are getting installed. So one of the packages is installed. Now it's installing PyMySQL. And again it's unpacking the Python Boto 3. So looks like everything is completed. So if I try to run the application, so let me go to the AWS into once again and sudo python 3, and the entry point will be student app.py. So let's see, here we can see there is a unknown database. So this database is getting error. So as I said you, in the config file there is a database name with studentdb -prod, and while creating the database I changed this to studentdb_prod. So this is causing an issue. So let me change this on the config.py file. So let me go here and let me go to the custom db, and instead of hyphen let me change this to, okay, let me change this to underscore, and let me save this. Let me clear this and we are good to go. So let me start the application. So here we can see restarting is with stat debugger is active and debugging. So we are good to go. So let me go here and let me check if the application is accessible to us or not. So here we can see this is the application that we are trying to deploy, and the application is successfully deployed, meaning the Python and all the other framework are installed successfully and are working perfectly fine. So let me give the student ID and let me give it a name. So this will be my first name and last name, and primary skills will be, okay, so let me add this as SRE itself, and location will be Nepal. Okay, and let me choose the image file. So this is the image file that I'll be choosing, and update database. So here we can see unable to locate credentials, but let's check the database if the values are inserted or not. So let me open a new window for this, and okay, so let me minimize this as well, and let me do the SSH login. SSH, so let me go to the D drive as my key is located in D drive. So SSH-i root, sorry, demo server key, and Ubuntu @IP address. So my IP address will be this. Okay, so let me copy the IP address once again. Okay, so we are successfully logged on to the server in the next git bash window as well. So let me clear this and let me do my SQL login. Okay, okay, so the database is changed, and let me select asterisk from table. So the table name is student. So here we can see this is the values that I just entered in the website. So the student ID is 1, the first name is set to Sekhar, last name is set to Khanal, and the primary skill is set to SRE, and the location is set to Nepal. So the values that we just entered here is successfully inserted there, but still we are not getting the successful message that the student has been added. So this is because, so the image we are trying to reference is to the S3 bucket, but currently we haven't created the S3 bucket as well, so based on which it's throwing this error. So let me go here and let me create this S3 bucket here. So finally I am creating the S3 bucket. So if I see the config file here, let me clear the screen and let me do ls, and let me go to the AWS end-to-end and let me see the config file. So here we can see the bucket name is set to, this is my student bucket. So let me copy this and let me create a bucket here. So as I mentioned, so we must be careful on selecting the region. So as I said, within my config file the region is set to US East 2, so I'll be selecting the region US East 2. So if we are selecting the North Virginia region, we need to specify in this on the config.py file as well. So the region will be US East 1 in that case. So I'll be selecting the default region and let me paste the bucket name. So this will be my bucket name. So the bucket name is set to, this is my student bucket, this is my student bucket. Okay, we'll leave every other thing as it is and we'll be creating a bucket. Okay, let me go back to the application, let me refresh this once again and let me add another student as well. So this will be my Henry. Okay, well, okay, location will be USA and let me choose the file and let me update this. Still we are getting this, so this is an issue, not a major issue. So why we are getting this is because the Ubuntu user or the instance do not have the permission to update this within this bucket, so based on which we are getting this. So for this I need to create a IAM role first. So let me go to the IAM so that the EC2 user will be able to access the S3 bucket. So for that we need to create a role. So I'll be creating a role and I'll be assigning this role to the EC2 instance, and based on which we'll be able to navigate through this. So let me go to the role and let me create a role. So let me go here and create a role. So the common use cases, so we are using or we are trying to create this role for the EC2. So let me create this, and here we can see there are multiple policies. So based on the services that AWS provide, we can select specific policies to the specific roles, but currently I will be selecting administrator access for this role. So since this is a demo, so I don't want this to be much longer, so let me create a role first. So the role name is required, so let me give this AWS EC2 admin. Okay, so the creating role AWS EC2 admin. So let's wait for this to get created and let me go to EC2 and let me select the EC2 instance. So the prod server is the instance, and let me do one thing from the action section here. So there is networking and security, so let me go to security and select the modify IAM role, and we need to choose the IAM role that we recently created. So that will be AWS EC2 admin, and let me update the IAM role for this one. So finally we can see that we are able to access the instance. Now let me do one thing, let me add a third entry here. So my third entry will be student 3. This will be BARS Barack OBAMA Obama. So POLITICS politics, let's suppose, and the location, let me add this to NY or Nepal itself, so no worries. So here we can see student has been added to the database, but I had not selected the image, so let me add once again. So Thomas Muller and Ball, location Nepal. Okay, and let me choose the image. So this is the image. Let me update to it. So here we can see the save is successful. Following student has been added to the database, Thomas Muller. So we added an image, and currently we are not getting the unable to locate credentials error that we are previously getting. So I think we are good to go. So let's check over the S3 that if our image is being hosted in the S3 or not. So let's go to the bucket and let's check. So here we can see there are two files that are added to this, so we are good to go. Okay, so let's go back, and the setup is successful. So the main agenda for this today is we are also trying to use AWS RDS. So for this I need to go to the RDS section. Let me go to the RDS and let me create a relational database. And as I mentioned earlier, so this will be creating a blank database. So we need to create a database first within this MySQL DB, and we need to create a table as well. So the same process that we followed for the local DB. So I'm here at create database. So this will be easy create, and I'll be selecting MySQL for this one, or let me select MySQL itself. And here we can see there are DB instances, so production, dev test and free tier. So currently I'll be selecting free tier because I don't want to burn for this one. So master username is set to admin, so we can also use admin, but yes, okay, I'll be using this admin, or let me set this to root. So basically it will be anything that we could create. And for password, let me enter the password itself. Okay, so let me create a DB. Okay, looks like PASSWORD. So let's create the database. Okay, so we can see the AWS RDS status is creating. So let's wait for some time. So database takes some time because it will be provisioning an instance and will be setting up favorable environment for MySQL to run. So this might take some time. So this is successful. Till then, let's go to the MySQL DB that we have created on the local and check if the entries that we added recently are being reflected or not. Student use database, unknown database. Okay, so I do not need to mention use database here. So directly I can provide use student DB prod. Okay, so the database is changed, and let me select asterisk from student table. So we could see the entries that are currently on the table. So I believe the font is visible. So these are the entries that we did. So the first one is Shekhar Khanal, then we have Henry Beckham, then we have Barack Obama, and the last entry is Thomas Muller. So we are good to go. So let me exit out of this. So this is of no use for now. Okay, so let me exit. Let me clear this. So let's check if our database is created. Okay, so connection detail to your database. This is the only time you will be able to view this password. Copy and save the password for your reference. Otherwise, you will need to modify the database to change it. You can use a SQL client application or utility to connect to your database. So the SQL client application will be the EC2 instance itself. So for that, we have installed the SQL client on the EC2 instance. So I believe the major thing that we require is almost clear, And I also believe that if anyone follows along this video according to the pattern that I am doing, so anyone who will be following this will be easily able to set up this application on their AWS environment. So as we can see, the master username that I changed to root, and master password I set it to password. So this is only the first and last time we will be seeing this. After this the database will be created and we will not be able to access these details. So if we are trying to create a database and want to store the password and the username, do it right here itself, so that it will be easy to manage the database. Okay, so the status is still on the creating state, so let's wait for some time. And let me go to EC2 once. And within EC2 we could see we have prod server. So let us check if there's anything. Okay, within monitoring, let's see. So the CPU percentage, as we can see, during the time I created the EC2 instance and I did certain installation, so based on which there was a spike. I won't say a spike, but there was a rise in CPU utilization. Later it dropped, and again I believe we connected to the MySQL and we inserted multiple queries within the MySQL. So I believe that was the case for this one, and it's constant at 1% of CPU utilization, which is not much. But if there will be multiple connections, the CPU utilization will obviously get exceeded. So in this way we can monitor using the CloudWatch. So this is provided by the CloudWatch. And talking about this, we also can install the agent on the instance itself, so that we can do the process monitoring, disk monitoring and other things. So currently CPU utilization will be shown without the installation of agent on the EC2 instance. Okay, so let me go to S3 and let me check if the S3 is, sorry, not the S3. So let me go to the RDS and let's check if the database is created or not. And the last thing that I like to mention here is we need to change this as well. So here we can see the custom host, the username and password is as it is. And let me also change the DB name as well, so that it will be clear to you. So the host name will be provided by this itself, and for that we need to, okay, so we can see it's on the backing up state. So I believe it will be on running states soon. So here we can see the CPU utilization is 21.26% for now. So there is backup also ongoing, so that might have raised the CPU utilization for now. Okay, so here we can see the connectivity and security. So this is the endpoint that I am currently talking. So this is the host name that we need to provide. So I'll be copying this and I'll be pasting this to the host name. So this will automatically find this RDS DB, and let me set the DB to prod, or let me set this to student DB RDS, so that it will be clear for us. Okay, so I have set the DB name to student DB. So the bucket name is as it is, so no other further changes needs to be done here. So let me save this and let's check if it is on working status. So it's still on backing up. I should have created the RDS earlier, but it's modifying. Okay, so if we see by refreshing this, I believe we'll be seeing error here. So this can't be reached, and let us see the screen. So here we can see, since I changed the MySQL host name and the database name. So it's saying that it is unable to connect to the MySQL server on this database because the database isn't yet ready. So let's refresh this once again and let's see. This is still on the modifying state. So the CPU utilization percentage is dropped. So previously our application and the database both were on the EC2 instance, on the same EC2 instance, but as of now the application is only on the EC2 instance and the database we have separated it to the RDS. So in this way we can decouple the dependency within the same instance. Okay, so this is available for us. Now let us run this application once again. So I believe it still will be throwing us error because the database isn't yet created. So let's see. Okay, so here we can see cannot connect to the MySQL server on this host name is getting shown here. So it's also giving us timeout. So let us do one thing. So let me connect to this MySQL database first. Sudo. Okay, so I won't be needing sudo mysql -h. So the host name. So let me first log into the MySQL server and let me. So this will be the host name -p will be the port. So 3306 is the port that we are trying to connect, and u will be the root, and -p will be for the password. And let me enter the password. Okay, so we are unable to connect to the MySQL DB. So this, let us say, can't connect to the MySQL server on. Okay, let me clear this once and let me use. I believe this is not the case, but still. Okay, so looks like I got the point. So we had not added the security group on for this one. So let me go here and let me go to the networking, and this is the subnet group default. Okay, so the security group, this is what I was searching for. Okay, let me open this and let me also open the EC2 instance and let me select the, not this one, this one, and let me go to the EC2 instance. Let me go here and let me select the security, and this is the security group. That copy this and let me go to the security group and let me add a role type. Okay, so this is the one, and let me save the rules. So this has been connected, and so let me okay, so after adding the security group we are now able to access this MySQL DB. This is the RDS, AWS RDS, and as I mentioned, let me create a database first. Create database. So the name that I set for the database name on my config file, let me check this, cat Okay, so student DB RDS. So create database studentdb underscore RDS. So this is the DB, and let me use this DB. So the database is changed, and let me create a table. Create table student, and the same process. So we have 5 fields. The first one is student ID, STUID. So varchar 20 for this. Then we have f name for first name. This will also be varchar and 20. Then we have L name. This will also be varchar 20. Then we have primary skill. This will also be varchar 20. And the last thing we have is location, varchar 20. Okay, so the table is also created. So let me select asterisk from student db RDS. Okay, so let me give the table name. Sorry for this one. So this is an empty set. So let me run the application once again. I believe everything is good to go now. And let me show you this first. In the S3 bucket we had 2 images. So now I'll be adding multiple 3 to 4 entries. So based on which the image also needs to be uploaded here, and the object count must also be increased. So not cat config.py, sudo python3 stu app.py. Okay, so we are good to go. If I refresh this, we'll be able to access the application. So this will be my student ID 5. This will be RAM, and let me add random. So let me choose the file, update database. So this is added to the database as well, and the image is added to the S3 bucket. And let me add another student ID, and name will be random. Everything will be random here, and let me choose a file. Okay, so I think this will be it for the addition. So let's go to the bucket, and let me refresh this bucket. So here we can see the student ID with the image are added here. So we are good to go. Now let us check if the values are being reflected on the database or not. So again, let me do select asterisk from student, and here we can see the last entry that I added here. So 5678 student ID with the F name and L name, primary skill and location were added just now from the browser, and we could see they are being added here. So the database or the data is getting inserted into this table, and the image file is also getting inserted into the S3 bucket. So I hope the setup is clear to you, and this is it. So the entries 1, 2, 3 and 4 were also added to the database, but they were added to the local database, not the RDS that we are trying to connect or that we are currently connected. So this is the MySQL RDS that is being hosted on the AWS RDS as a managed service rather than the database that is on the local instance. So I hope this is clear to all. So let me go to RDS and let's check if there is anything. Okay, let's go to the DB instance. Let me go to the database. Okay, so In this way we can also create a red replica, and we could also create a blue-green deployment whenever we are trying to do the deployment changes over to it. And we can also quickly convert it into the multi-agent zone. So basically a region encapsulate multiple availability zones. So basically